Discipline beats motivation because motivation is emotional, and emotions are unreliable. They rise when things feel exciting and disappear the moment effort becomes uncomfortable. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It operates on commitment, not mood. That's why people who rely on motivation start strong and finish nowhere, while disciplined people keep moving even when the fire is gone. Motivation waits for the perfect moment. Discipline creates momentum in imperfect conditions. The days you don't feel like showing up are the days that matter most, because that's when discipline separates serious builders from hopeful talkers. Anyone can act when they feel inspired. Very few act when they feel tired, bored, or unsure. Discipline is built through repetition, not intensity. It's the decision to do small, uncomfortable actions consistently until they become non-negotiable. Success doesn't come from one massive push, but from thousands of ordinary efforts done without negotiation. Discipline removes choice and replaces it with standards. Motivation is reactive. Discipline is proactive. Motivation responds to external triggers, speeches, videos, praise. Discipline responds to internal rules. When you set rules for your behavior, you stop debating with yourself. You already know what must be done, and that clarity eliminates hesitation. People who chase motivation spend too much time preparing and not enough time producing. Discipline skips the mental drama and moves straight to execution. It understands that progress is messy, imperfect, and often invisible in the beginning. Discipline shows up anyway. Discipline trains your identity. Every time you follow through, you prove to yourself that your word has weight. That self-trust compounds. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. That shift alone changes how you approach work, pressure, and responsibility. Motivation is loud but short-lived. Discipline is quiet but permanent. It doesn't announce itself or seek recognition. It simply accumulates results over time. While others wait to feel energized, disciplined people are already ahead, stacking progress while no one is watching. Discipline protects you from excuses. When discipline is in place, excuses lose power. There's no room to justify delay, blame circumstances, or wait for better conditions. The work gets done because that's the rule, not because it feels good. Discipline sharpens focus. When your actions are structured, your mind stops wandering. You know your priorities, you know your schedule, and you know what must be accomplished. This clarity reduces stress and increases output, allowing you to move faster with less friction. Motivation fades under pressure. Discipline thrives under it. Pressure exposes who built habits and who relied on feelings. When things get hard, disciplined people don't panic. They default to routine. That stability creates an unfair advantage in business, growth, and life. Discipline compounds faster than talent. Talent without discipline becomes wasted potential. Discipline without talent becomes unstoppable. Skills can be learned, systems can be built, but without discipline, none of it lasts. Discipline is the engine that keeps everything moving forward. Discipline creates freedom, not restriction. By controlling your actions, you gain control over your outcomes. You buy back time, confidence, and optionality. The more disciplined you are today, the fewer limitations you face tomorrow. Motivation makes promises, discipline keeps them. It turns goals into actions and actions into results. Every disciplined choice strengthens your ability to execute under pressure, even when no one is cheering you on. Discipline builds resilience. When you do hard things repeatedly, difficulty stops feeling threatening. You become comfortable with discomfort, and that comfort gives you power. Challenges no longer slow you down, they sharpen you. Comfort is the real enemy because it disguises itself as safety. It convinces you that staying where you are is smart, responsible, and reasonable. In reality, comfort slowly drains urgency, ambition, and edge. It doesn't attack loudly. It softens you quietly until growth feels unnecessary and effort feels optional. Comfort makes average feel acceptable. It lowers your standards just enough that you stop demanding more from yourself. You start celebrating small wins while avoiding hard goals. Over time, you confuse stability with progress and routine with success, and that confusion keeps you stuck. Comfort delays decisions. It tells you to wait, to think longer, to prepare more. It replaces action with planning and courage with caution. While you wait for certainty, opportunities expire and momentum dies. Comfort prefers hesitation because hesitation feels safe. Comfort trains you to avoid discomfort instead of mastering it. You begin structuring your life around convenience rather than challenge. You choose the easy task over the important one, the familiar over the effective, the short-term relief over long-term gains. Comfort steals your hunger. When nothing feels urgent, nothing gets pursued aggressively. You stop pushing limits and start protecting what you have. That shift turns growth into maintenance and ambition into preservation. Comfort creates false confidence. You feel fine because nothing is wrong, but nothing is improving either. You mistake the absence of pain for progress and the absence of risk for intelligence. Meanwhile, your potential sits unused. Comfort makes excuses sound logical. You justify why now isn't the right time, why conditions aren't perfect, why effort can wait. These explanations feel reasonable, which makes them dangerous. They keep you busy without moving you forward. Comfort shrinks your tolerance for effort. Tasks that once felt manageable begin to feel heavy. Discipline feels extreme. Consistency feels demanding. The less discomfort you allow, the weaker your ability to handle pressure becomes. Comfort disconnects you from urgency. You stop acting like time matters. Days blend together, progress slows, and weeks pass without meaningful movement. Comfort thrives in delay and feeds on procrastination. Comfort limits growth by avoiding friction. But friction is where strength is built. Every meaningful upgrade in life requires resistance. Avoiding that resistance guarantees stagnation, no matter how capable you are. Comfort is expensive. It costs future options, confidence, and leverage. What feels easy today becomes costly tomorrow when you realize how much ground you didn't cover. The bill always arrives later with interest. Comfort makes discipline feel unnecessary. You tell yourself you'll lock in when things get serious, but things only get serious when you decide they do. Comfort waits. Growth demands commitment now. Comfort slowly erodes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who pushes limits and start seeing yourself as someone who plays it safe. That identity shift changes every decision you make. Comfort doesn't ruin you overnight. It wears you down quietly through small compromises and delayed actions. It convinces you that you're fine right where you are, even when you know deep down you're capable of more. Execution creates confidence because action removes uncertainty. Thinking, planning, and preparing can only take you so far before they turn into avoidance. The moment you act, even imperfectly, your mind shifts from doubt to data. You stop guessing and start learning through movement. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is the byproduct of it. Waiting to feel ready keeps you trapped in hesitation. Action forces clarity. Each step forward, no matter how small, proves that you can move without permission or perfect conditions. Execution breaks the illusion of fear. Fear grows in stillness and shrinks in motion. When you take action, the things you imagined as overwhelming become manageable. What once felt intimidating becomes familiar through repetition. Execution builds evidence. Every completed task becomes proof that you can follow through. That evidence stacks. Over time, self-belief stops being emotional and becomes factual. You trust yourself because you've watched yourself deliver. Execution shifts focus from outcomes to process. Instead of worrying about how big the goal is, you concentrate on the next action. This reduces pressure and increases speed. Momentum replaces overthinking. Execution trains decisiveness. Each time you act without delay, you strengthen your ability to choose and commit. Indecision weakens confidence. Decisive action, even when imperfect, sharpens it. Execution creates adaptability. Plans rarely survive contact with reality, but action reveals what works and what doesn't. Confidence grows when you realize you can adjust, correct, and keep moving forward without freezing. Execution replaces comparison with progress. When you're busy executing, you stop measuring yourself against others. Your attention shifts inward toward improvement and output. Progress becomes personal, not performative. Execution removes the need for validation. Results speak louder than intentions. When you execute consistently, you no longer need reassurance from others. Your confidence is grounded in work completed, not opinions received. Execution builds resilience. Acting despite uncertainty teaches you that discomfort is survivable. Each action under pressure reinforces the belief that you can handle more than you thought. Pressure becomes familiar rather than paralyzing. Execution clarifies priorities. When you act, distractions become obvious. You quickly see what matters and what doesn't. Confidence increases when your actions align with clear priorities instead of scattered effort. Execution turns failure into feedback. Mistakes stop being personal attacks and start becoming useful information. This mindset shift removes fear and encourages continued action without emotional paralysis. Execution compounds belief. One action leads to another, creating momentum that carries you forward even on difficult days. Confidence grows naturally as movement becomes routine. Execution is how identity is built. You don't become confident by thinking about confidence. You become confident by acting like someone who follows through day after day, regardless of doubt. Success is built methodically, not emotionally. It follows structure, systems, and repeatable actions rather than bursts of intensity. People who win long-term don't rely on random effort. They rely on processes that work even on bad days. Methodical progress removes chaos and replaces it with direction. Showing up daily matters more than showing up big. Small actions done consistently outperform rare moments of extreme effort. When you commit to daily execution, progress becomes predictable instead of accidental. This reliability is what separates growth from guesswork. Success requires patience with repetition. Doing the same foundational work over and over can feel boring, but boredom is often a sign that the process is working. Mastery is created through repetition long before it is recognized by results. Methodical builders focus on inputs, not outcomes. They control effort, time, and behavior, knowing results will follow. Obsessing over outcomes creates anxiety, while controlling inputs creates momentum. Consistency beats intensity every time. Systems outperform willpower. Willpower fades, but systems remain. Structured routines reduce decision fatigue and keep progress moving forward even when motivation is low. Success becomes a default rather than a struggle. Progress is often invisible at first. Methodical work compounds quietly without applause or validation. Those who quit early usually do so because they expect immediate feedback. Those who stay win because they trust the process. Success rewards precision. Knowing what to work on and when to work on it eliminates wasted energy. Methodical effort directs focus toward high leverage actions instead of busy work. Clarity creates efficiency. Discipline turns time into an ally. Daily execution stacks results in your favor, allowing small gains to multiply. Methodical effort respects the power of compounding and refuses to rush what must be built. Consistency builds credibility. When you show up the same way every day, trust grows in your ability to deliver. That trust starts internally and eventually reflects externally through results and reputation. Methodical success eliminates panic. When challenges arise, there's a framework to fall back on. Instead of reacting emotionally, disciplined systems guide the next move. Stability becomes an advantage. Success demands long-term thinking. Short-term comfort must be traded for long-term gain. Methodical builders make scions based on where they want to be, not how they feel today. Execution creates alignment. When actions match goals consistently, progress feels controlled rather than chaotic. This alignment reduces stress and increases confidence in the direction you're moving. Methodical work reduces reliance on luck. While others hope for breakthroughs, disciplined builders manufacture progress through structure. Results become earned rather than accidental. Success is a result of accumulated effort, not singular moments. Every small action contributes to a larger outcome. Methodical commitment ensures nothing is wasted and everything moves forward. Personal responsibility is non-negotiable because every result in your life traces back to a decision you made or avoided. Blaming circumstances may protect your ego, but it blocks progress. Ownership is uncomfortable, but it is the only position that gives you control. When you accept responsibility, excuses lose their power. You stop explaining why something didn't work and start asking what you'll do differently next time. That shift changes problems from obstacles into assignments. Responsibility forces clarity. Instead of blaming people, timing, or luck, you examine your habits, standards, and choices. This clarity is painful at first, but it reveals exactly where growth must happen. Taking responsibility removes dependency. You stop waiting for permission, approval, or rescue. Progress accelerates when you understand that no one is coming to save you and that your outcomes are your job. Responsibility strengthens decision-making. When you know you own the result, you think more carefully, act more deliberately, and follow through more consistently. Accountability sharpens focus. Personal responsibility eliminates victim thinking. You no longer waste energy on resentment or comparison. That energy gets redirected toward action, improvement, and execution. Responsibility demands honesty. You must confront where you've been inconsistent, undisciplined, or distracted. This honesty stings, but it creates a clean starting point for real progress. Owning your actions builds self-respect. Every time you take responsibility, instead of deflecting blame, you reinforce trust in yourself. That trust becomes the foundation for confidence. Responsibility creates momentum. Once you accept that you control your responses and efforts, action becomes simpler. You stop overthinking and start doing what needs to be done. Personal responsibility exposes weak standards. If your results are average, it's not bad luck. It's a reflection of what you've been willing to tolerate. Raising standards begins with ownership. Responsibility makes feedback useful. Criticism stops feeling like an attack and starts feeling like data. When you own outcomes, feedback becomes a tool instead of a threat. Taking responsibility builds resilience. You learn to recover faster because you're focused on solutions, not stories. Setbacks become temporary rather than defining. Responsibility forces growth under pressure. When there's no one else to blame, you adapt, learn, and improve. Pressure stops being paralyzing and becomes productive. Personal responsibility turns discipline into a lifestyle. You don't act correctly when it's convenient. You act correctly because it's required. Consistency becomes part of who you are. Raising your standards changes everything because standards dictate behavior. What you tolerate becomes your baseline, and your baseline determines your results. When standards are low, effort feels optional. When standards rise, action becomes required. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they accept less than they're capable of producing. Average results come from Avera. GE standards repeated daily. Excellence begins the moment you refuse to accept those averages. High standards remove negotiation. You no longer debate whether to show up, focus, or follow through. The decision is already made. This eliminates hesitation and replaces it with consistency. Raising standards forces alignment. Your actions must match what you claim to value. When standards rise, excuses become obvious and uncomfortable. That discomfort is a signal that growth is happening. Standards shape identity. You become what you repeatedly allow and enforce. When you hold yourself to higher expectations, your self-image upgrades automatically. You start acting like someone who expects more from life. Higher standards expose gaps. They reveal where effort has been inconsistent and discipline has been weak. This exposure is not failure, it's information. Information gives you direction. Raising standards increases focus. You stop spreading energy across low-impact tasks and start prioritizing what actually moves the needle. Precision replaces busyness. High standards demand preparation. You plan better, manage time more carefully, and reduce unnecessary distractions. Structure becomes a tool rather than a restriction. Raising standards improves self-respect. Each time you meet a higher expectation, confidence strengthens. You trust yourself because your actions match your intentions. Standards influence momentum. When expectations rise, effort follows. Progress accelerates because there's no room for half commitment or inconsistent execution. Higher standards filter opportunities. You become selective about what deserves your time and energy. This selectivity protects focus and increases effectiveness. Raising standards requires courage. It means risking discomfort and disappointing others. But staying comfortable costs far more than raising expectations ever. Standards determine long-term outcomes. Short-term sacrifices become acceptable when the standard is non-negotiable. Discipline becomes easier when the alternative is unacceptable. Raising standards shifts your environment. You attract better opportunities, stronger habits, and higher level conversations. Your surroundings begin to reflect your expectations. Raising your standards changes your life because what you demand from yourself determines what you ultimately become.